Minister of Education and National Security speaking out about police presence in school. The National Security Minister also responding to the opposition's view on the crime conclave and an update on the small home repairs project on Grand Bahama. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Simonet with your JCN News for this Tuesday, March 29th. Police make their presence felt this week at public schools across the capital in an effort to combat incidents of violence. Leah Cooper spoke with the Minister of Education and National Security to find out how that's going. Here she is in this next report.
Police have beefed up their presence at 9 public schools this week following a gang-related stabbing at the A.F. Adderley Junior High School last Wednesday. Education, Technical and Vocational Training Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin telling reporters as much on Tuesday ahead of Cabinet.
Well, I think that there is a broad-based acceptance that the circumstances on several campuses are destabilized in some instances and that they require some level of, stabilization. To ensure that there are no incidents that negatively impact safety on the campus. So I think there's broad-based acceptance at this time. Hopefully this will not be a norm forever and ever, but certainly I think the facts disclose that it's necessary at this time.
Now, schools with increased police presence are all here in New Providence. Minister Hanna-Martin adds that they're mostly senior high schools in this complement. Now, teachers at the A.F. Adderley Junior High School sent a letter to the ministry outlining some safety measures that ought to be put in place to clamp down on violence. One of them being installing a metal detector at the entrance of the school. Asked if this was something the ministry is considering, Minister Hanna-Martin says this.
We'll take advice on that from the Ministry of National Security. I know I spoke to principals yesterday in several schools, and some are using those now. What is happening is that a lot of these items that are brought on, that are utilized, are not necessarily brought on at that point. And that is why ensuring the security of the perimeters is very important. There's a lot of creative ways that young people have devised to cause for them to circumvent all of these things you speak about so that they're able to get these items onto the campus. But I'm told that at all of these schools that I mentioned, they do searches. They search, and we have police searching. We put reservist police months ago at almost all of these schools. All of the senior high schools have reservist police officers, as does A.F. Adderley. And so they search. You have police officers searching, but we still have this issue, which tells us that there is a broader concern about how these items are getting on the campus. Furthermore, it's important to note a lot of these incidents happen off campus. When the young people are moving in large groups in uniforms, and they're anonymous, and they're in one anonymous group. And that is where you see these things happen in hotspots, like at the malls and other spaces like that. And we just need a collaborative effort of everybody in the community for us to do what we can to stabilize our young people.
Now, National Security Minister Wayne Munro also spoke to the gang culture that exists in some schools here in New Providence.
We had a briefing from the officer in charge, the commander of CIB, the Intelligence Bureau of the Police, and he indicates that they are fairly certain that there are gangs in school. They see it from graffiti in the schools, and they see it from the activities that they carry out. The one thing that the leader of the opposition should have drawn from the conclave is that the police are very focused, very directed, and are being intelligence-driven, down to tracing firearms back to source of purchase in the U.S., back to purchasers. And so this isn't a politician feel good, I want to write down some stuff to do. This is something that has to be driven by data, which the PLP is committed to do.
According to the National Security Minister, police officers increased their presence at those 9 schools on Monday. Some of them include Government High School, C.H. Reeves, C.C. Sweeting, T.A. Thompson, C.V. Bethel, and Doris Johnson Senior High School. Reporting for JCN News, I'm Leah Cooper.
Thanks, Leo. National Security Minister Wayne Munro is skeptical of the opposition's sincerity to have a bipartisan approach to crime in the country. He says this much on the heels of opposition leader Michael Pintard telling reporters on Monday that the opposition expects more from a crime conclave, which took place this weekend at the office of the Prime Minister, with high-level stakeholders addressing the recent increase in homicides here in the capital.
They're disingenuous in a lot of what they do. So you come to a meeting with proposals and you've not even been briefed as to what the problem is. That is like a doctor treating you without examining you. And so the Prime Minister may be of a different view, but I see their efforts as cynical and disingenuous. We had a briefing where the police was quite blunt with us about what was happening, the steps that could be taken.
At the conclave, the minister said that Assistant Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernander has put together a team that's targeting gangs, individuals on bail, and drug shops in an effort to curb the spike in homicides.
And it was quite clear at the meeting that they had introduced saturation patrols into the hotspots. That was said. Other participants at the conclave involve persons who are concerned with engaging people before they become criminals. So you look at it holistically. Before you become a criminal, how do we stop you becoming a criminal? When you decide that you're going to be a criminal, we have to execute to get you off the streets. And after you're off the streets and in prison, we have to rehabilitate you. So you will have a holistic plan that will be advanced by the Prime Minister after the diagnosis.
Minister Munro adds that he isn't optimistic that the opposition would be sincere in their approach, but he does hope that they will change course and become sincere, as the Prime Minister's genuine in engaging everyone to solve this problem. Minister of State in the office of the Prime Minister, Miles Larota, giving reporters an update on the small home repairs project on Grand Bahama. Just before the weekly cabinet meeting, Minister Larota says that at this point, the government has sourced the funds for about 2,600 residents at various stages of the home repairs.
That would be from about 2,500 and capped at 10,000. What we have to do, there are about 3,700 people in total, so there's an additional 1,100 people who have applied for assistance. However, the former cabinet only approved 2,600, so we have to go back to cabinet for approval for those other, just say under 1,100 people. I expect that to be done pretty shortly. I conveyed that message to both the leader of the opposition and the member of parliament for East Grand Bahama.
When asked about the approval process for the small home repairs and why only 2,600 residents were approved, Minister Larota says this.
Home repairs, as it started under the previous government, there were homes with various stages of damages, and they would have been, they were supposed to be assessed. Whether that was done entirely could be debated, but we are where we are, where commitments have been made. The contractors would have done work. Some of them are at halfway point. Some of them have been completed. So we do owe about, I think, just north of 400,000 to those contractors who performed the work. As I said earlier, those sources have been sourced, so those contractors would be notified shortly when they would receive their funds.
The small home repairs program was made for individuals whose homes were destroyed in the deadly Category 5 Hurricane Dorian back in 2019. During Minister Larota's contribution in Parliament on the 2021-2022 mid-year budget debate, he noted that he was advised of a gap in which the government spent $14 million without due diligence. The Department of Labor currently has a job and career fair initiative going on throughout the country to help assist unemployed Bahamians while also helping them to become more qualified. Laurencia Smith visited the Director of Labor, Robert Farquharson, today to get more insight on these initiatives.
Some 1,000 persons have gained employment through the Department of Labor Job Fair initiative. This according to the Director of Labor, Robert Farquharson. On Tuesday, he noted that the department is working closely with the private sector to help Bahamians to gain meaningful employment.
This year we have held 2 successful job fairs in conjunction with the Sandals Company. Out of those 2 job fairs, Sandals would have employed a little under 400 people from the Department of Labor to work in those areas. We held a job fair in conjunction with Paradise Games. A number of Bahamians were hired. We held a job fair in conjunction with the Island Site Development Company on the island of Eleuthera. A significant amount of people were hired to work on the Disney project.
The director says that the department and the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institution, BTVI, has entered into a partnership to help Bahamians to become more qualified in a vast cross-section of fields, among them construction. As a result of the partnership between the 2 institutions, there has been a number of career fair initiatives.
There is a major development going on Norman's Key, where a 6-star hotel is being built on Norman's Key. The company and the Department of Labor have been in discussions, and they also said to us, listen, you send us certified people and we will hire you. So on the 18th and 19th of this month, we were on the island of Exuma, and we again signed up almost 100 young people to become certified. It is anticipated that once that certification has completed, it's an online certification through BTVI, those men and women will be hired.
Mr. Farquharson says that the Department of Labor will be in Freeport next month, as they have been in discussions with owners and managers of the Grand Bahama Shipyard, who says that the company needs qualified Bahamians to extend the shipyard. Here's what's next for these initiatives.
On May the 5th, the Department of Labor will be partnering with the East Street Gospel Chapel and a number of private sector organizations to hold a job fair on Saturday, May 5th. We have identified at least 15 companies to come to the job fair, interview persons, and hire them on the spot. So we're looking forward to having that information properly communicated and try to encourage persons seeking a job. The Department of Labor is taking the message to in the heartland, to the inner cities, and make it more accessible to people looking for jobs. And those are some of the initiatives that we do to try and attack the unemployment levels in our country.
Now, Director Farquharson could not give a direct number of the unemployment rate here in the country. However, he says by the end of April, early May, he should have those numbers available. I'm Laurentia Smith for Jcn News.
Thanks, Laurentia. Public Hospitals Authority and the Princess Margaret Hospital advising the public that only emergency cases are encouraged to utilize the emergency department at the Princess Margaret Hospital. Non-emergency patients are asked to contact their primary care physician or utilize community clinics for care. A medical emergency is an acute injury or illness that poses an immediate risk to a person's life or long-term health, sometimes referred to as a situation risking life or limb. If you are unsure whether you require emergency medical assistance, please call 919 or the emergency department at Princess Margaret Hospital at 326-7014. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.